Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. It is Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another Sunday of You've Guessed It, the Success Starter series, where I, as your coach, help you to create systems that work for your life, your career, or your business that work even when life gets busy because isn't it always busy? And this last week has been a true definition of me living what I talk about, like walking the walk and not just talking the talk. Not that that's what I typically do, but y'all get the point. As we end out the last Sunday in the month of March, the last Sunday in Q1, we're talking about essentially Q2 prep. What could change in 12 weeks if you stopped waiting? If you stop saying when it's not busy, if you stop saying when things slow down, if you stop saying and when you stop saying next week, next month, tomorrow, what if you stop waiting and start doing? What would change? What could change? That's what we're diving into, and that's what we're talking about today. And so I've been in trial this last week. And not only have I been in trial this last week, but I've been away from my home in trial this last week. And having to essentially pack up your life and take it with you and then come home for basically 24 hours to go back and do it again, it helps you to really see what's important, what are the priorities, and where are you focusing. And that's why waiting for things to slow down is a trap. No matter how long you wait, the motivation, that will, and that desire to do is going to fade. But the thing that has stayed and will stay is the structure. And so even me deciding what do I need to pack up to take with me? What do I need to pack up to bring was based on structure. My morning routine, my workouts, my meal prep. What are the things that keep me sane, that keep me grounded, that keep me locked in, and that are going to help me to have the best day, to have the best week, that's going to keep me, prepared. Like working out is for my mental health and for those who are around me. Like eating healthy is for my physical health. So that when I'm in trial, like I'm locked in, I know I've nourished my body. I'm not getting the itis because I've been eating these heavy foods. My morning routine is about setting the tone, getting myself prepared. And so when you wait for life to create this space for you, you'll realize that life isn't going to do that. Life isn't out here sitting around waiting to make things easier for you. Like there's an entire game called the game of life for a reason. And I don't think I've ever actually played it, but I know it has different things on there like go to school, go bankrupt, get a job, have a kid, get married, get divorced, all of these different things. And such is the game, the literal game of life that we live day in and day out. We wake up and we have this intention and this plan. Hopefully you have an intention and plan for your day. But that doesn't mean that that's the reality of what's going to actually show up and what's going to actually happen in any given day that we have. And so what happens when you stop waiting and what happens when you actually change? And as we dive in, as we talk about it, y'all know how we do. We're going to hit 3 quick points and I'm going to be out your way because I need to get myself ready. I'm not moving a lot because my hair is wet and so I still have the braids back here. I just took these loose to try to get it the rest of the way dry. Because I have to finish this and get back under the dryer. And so let's look at and talk about why waiting for things to slow down is a trap. Because again, when are things actually slow? Oh, they might be slower than they were before. Okay, how slow is that actually though? Like, is it actually slow or is it just what? And so you sitting around waiting and saying, when it slows down, I got this, I'm gonna do this, is nothing more than a trap. Because life doesn't actually create space. The more space that you have, the more things life is going to try to fill it up. Just like, okay, you have this blank calendar. People are like, oh, you're available. Do this, go here, do all of this. Like they're setting it up for you. But what really creates space and allows for expansion is structure. Because structure says this if this is a non-negotiable, this is where I'm fitting this in. And so what does that look like in the framework or in the structure that actually already exists? And what does that look like in the course of like going through this process, I guess you can say? Because the more you keep waiting, as you have been waiting, because I mean, we're almost 75, we're over 75 days, almost 90 days into this year, and here you are still in this delay spot. Delay is doing nothing for you. Delay is only killing the little bit of momentum that you thought you had. Because the more you slow down, the more you coast, the more you stop, the more you wait, you have no momentum. Hey, how you doing? And if you don't do something to start actually moving, you're going to just keep waiting. You're just going to keep waiting. And the point at which you move and take action is going to be when like something has shocked you or scared you to the point that you're like, crap. But why do we have to wait for these literal life-altering decisions to make us move? Because you're waiting to be motivated. And if life or death is the only thing that's going to motivate you, you're going to be real stuck in life. And so what if, y'all know, and if you don't know, like I talked about last year, like halfway through the year, how I was going to stop setting yearly goals and I was going to start focusing more so on these quarterly resets, because as a full-time attorney, most of my court dates are set within 60 to 90 days. And so that gives me a better idea of how to plan. And so what if, now that we've looked at why slowing down, or why waiting, for things to slow down is this trap that's killing you, that's keeping you stuck, that has you procrastinating, what if we examine, because y'all know we walk into the lead method here, what if we examine how this compressed timeline, like this shortened timeline, actually sharpens your focus? Because here's the thing with yearly planning. Like setting yearly goals makes you feel like you have so much time to accomplish it. Like last year, you would have thought March would have taken forever to get here, and here it is already. And not only here it is already, but here it goes already. I promise I was just like planning for March, and then I was like, oh, we're halfway through the month, and now it's like, oh snap, April is here, Q2 is here. And so with this compressed timeline, with this shortened timeline, and I initially was going to be hosting, and I'm still going to host it, but it's going to be the end of this quarter, like a masterclass all about kind of using the 12-week year and how quarterly planning can help you lock in and focus. But you don't got to wait to the end of next quarter, or end of this quarter, end of next quarter. I guess I should say end of next quarter because we're still in Q1. You don't have to wait for the end of next quarter to like walk through that. Like, hello, productivity and accountability coach, book a call. We can do this customized and personalized to you. But here's the thing about compressed timelines. If you're working on, and for those who don't know, the 12-week year is a book. I forgot who it was written by, but it's a red cover. It's a short book. But essentially, it's about how making each quarter a year. So essentially, the idea behind it and the goal behind it is to 4x your productivity, because you do in one quarter what you would have given yourself a whole year to do, which means theoretically you do 4 times the amount of progress in a year. But even if you don't necessarily go that deep with it, and that's not in a negative way, even if you don't necessarily go that deep with it, what if you just lock in and think about what it is you need to focus on? Because we give ourselves these projects, and even when it comes to monthly goals, you're like, okay, how am I going to do this in this month? Like, I got to go here, I got to do this. Like, how am I going to make this goal happen? And so I wanted, and it was, Q1 for me was about like laying this foundation. But what it really became more of in the course of working to lay the foundation was identifying gaps. Because in order to have a solid foundation, you need to understand what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. It wasn't like I did a full SWOT analysis or anything like that. But in the course of working to lay this foundation, and especially with working in my mastermind, I was realizing like gaps that I have that in the long run will need to be plugged, especially as I grow and scale. But right now might be okay. But I don't want to just be okay. If I'm working on building this solid foundation, I want to start correcting that. And so I'm looking at Q2 like, okay, well, if Q1 was about building this solid foundation, but it really morphed more into identifying gaps, I want Q2 to be about fixing those things. And so as I start to think about some of the things that I want to work on and fix, and I'm like, okay, with the 12-week year, I can give myself a week to work on each of these tasks. Like, okay, I want to create a freebie. You have a week to create a freebie. Okay, I want to update my website. It might take more than a week. But okay, you theoretically, you have a week to update your website. Okay, I want to, my book is on Amazon, but I want to also have the link on my website. Give myself a week to do that. That might, I guess you can say, and that's where working on the website could take more than a week because I can, break down each section. Okay, I made this freebie. I've been working on, I can't even say working on, it's done. This planner that I created, I've been using it since last year, and I was doing the final test and like figuring out that some pages needed to be moved. And I had a girl that I work with who helped make it fillable, so for those who want it to be digital. But I haven't figured out how to, the digital one I guess I can just upload, but like the original version to get it printed, I need to get it like on Amazon, on KDP, to be able to be printed. So do you see how all these different tasks, I can easily, with the 12-week year, say, you have a week to work on this. Instead of saying, I need to update my website, get my book, get this and this, and you just like, I don't even know where to start. But with the 12-week year, because you have this time frame, it's going to help you to sharpen your focus. It's going to help you to be better about your priorities, especially because you're going to think about it in the sense of, is this actually a this quarter problem? Because, like, for example, my planner, it's undated, so you can literally start it today if you wanted to. Now, I wouldn't suggest you start it on, like, March 29th. I would say give it 2 days and start on April the 1st, but do you, boo? Who am I to tell you? Which is why I made it undated. But maybe it's more so of something that I work on, like, later. To be determined. I don't know. I haven't finished my 12-week planning. But once you get clear on the deadlines, that gives you this sense of urgency. And by you having this sense of urgency, that can help clarify what actually matters. And so you have this list of things that you want to do, but if you're saying to yourself, each task has no more than a week to be done, that's going to help you to really see what are the top 12 tasks that I need to work on and work through them. And maybe as you're going through it, you finish things quicker, so therefore you're able to add some more stuff on. Or maybe even as you're going through, you realize some of the potential hiccups that you might not have known about that now, I don't want to say slows it down, but helps you to still lock in and focus. And so we need to start looking at, like, I tell you to do a brain dump and make a to-do list every week because that gives you this sense of urgency of this is what I'm locking in on, this is what I'm focusing on. And even when it comes to making your to-do list, how I tell you to prioritize must do versus the need to do's versus the want to do's. That's your ranking, that's your priority, that's your sense of urgency. And so that same thing applies with like using the 12-week year. And so as you examine how it is you're going about and going into Q2, what could change in 12 weeks if you stop waiting? What's something you've been wanting to do? What's something that you've been meaning to do? What's something that you're like, oh, I'm going to get to this eventually. And when you think about how long eventually is, you're like, oh, wait a minute. And I'm going to use my friend Nicole as an example. She had like some pain, like hamstring injury or whatever. And she was like, I'm focusing on this right now. I got some travel coming up. I'll get to it when I get to it, basically. And at one point I was like, girl, you still having this pain? Like, every time you think it's healed, you realize that it's not because you do a move that you don't normally do, and you're like, oop, no, it's not. And so she was like, basically, I'll get to it when I get to it. But then I was like, I'm pretty positive you've been saying this since January. So this was last month, or maybe even the beginning of this. No, it was like the beginning of this month. And it was like, I asked her, like, so how long has it been? And she was like, I stopped counting when I got to 8 weeks. Exactly. So you've been putting this thing off for all this time, but I don't want to say it's a quick fix, but I mean, it's an injury, but the longer you're waiting, that's not helping make it any better. She goes to the doctor, she gets like a steroid cream or something like that, and starts to basically feel the results instantaneously. Like, she's still using it, she's still going through it, but it's actually healing now. And so what could change in 12 weeks if you stop waiting? She waited for 8 weeks to go do something about it. In those 8 weeks, it likely would have actually healed in that time. And I get that there are things that you wait on because you're like, okay, let me give it a week or two to see if it's going to fix itself. Because, sometimes you're just like, oh, I just need to stretch right or wrong. And I don't know if y'all remember when I had like this hip ticket, I'm like, After like a month, I was like, this isn't normal for me. Like, let me go to the doctor. So I went to the sports medicine doctor. He gave me some stretches. I did the stretches. Bam, we're all good. Same thing happened when I had like something in my arm and I couldn't go too far back. Same thing. After a couple of weeks, I'm like, okay, if this is an injury, clearly what I'm doing to try to stretch it out isn't right, isn't enough. I need some help. What would change if you stopped waiting? And it's not even necessarily the 12 weeks. We can look at the 12 weeks, but it might even be within a shorter time. Because if you think about the 12 weeks, you have 3 months within that time. So what can change in 4 weeks if you stop waiting? What can change in 6 weeks? Even when it comes to like weight loss and working out and stuff like that. They say it takes 4 weeks for you to change, 6 weeks for the world, and 8 weeks for every. I forgot the numbers, but there's like a whole philosophy behind it. So what if we really locked in and started using these shorter time frames? What if we really locked in and compressed what it is that we're focusing on, and essentially choose 12 things that I want to focus on over this next quarter, and give yourself the time to actually do it, to actually work on it, and to make each thing a priority? Because in the midst of these 12 things, life is still life, which means your regular responsibilities aren't going away. You still have the regular day-to-day life, travel, business, work, whatever, to deal with and to do. And so then the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of preparing you to execute is the course correcting. You look at pivoting, adjusting as failure. But what have we said about failure time and time again? To fail is your first attempt in learning. You pivoting, you adjusting is not failing. You even deciding to change the way that you've been planning actually helps you to make more progress, because you're then able to really know what it is that I'm focusing on. Because when we set these goals for the year, we're loosey-goosey with it oftentimes, especially if it isn't a goal that can't be quantified and reverse engineered. Like I use like my running goal. Like I did still set a few yearly goals, but they were things that really comes down to a monthly goal. Like I'm running 300 miles this year. In order to run 300 miles this year, that's 25 miles a month. Yes, there might be like right now for March, I probably won't get another run in the next 2 days. But like I'm over my 25 for the month. But that's fine, because in April, based off what my work calendar looks like, I might get one work from home Friday. So I can't say that Monday through Thursday I might be able to fill it in and to catch up, or not catch up, to pivot my work from home day. So I'm planning for one work from home day in the month of April, which means I know I have only my Saturday, Sundays to count for my running days. And so it would be harder for me to hit my 25-mile goal for the month, or I would have to run longer. Like I would have to do like 3-mile runs. Like I basically have to do a 5K each time I ran to hit that goal. And I don't necessarily want to do that. And so by me being ahead in March, that's setting me up to where, okay, in April you can, I don't even want to say coast, you can cut back a little, not intentionally, but because I need to cut back a little, I have that space. And so adjusting isn't you quitting, it's just you looking at your actual capacity for this given time. And so that's where the question keeps coming in. And I know I keep asking y'all this because I really want you to think about it, is literally what could change if you stopped waiting? What could change? Because you think that having this structure is going to make you like this all or nothing type of person. No. If you've been following along in my stories with me being like last week with being in trial, I wasn't waking up at 2:30, because when I wake up at 2:30, I have this whole routine that I do. But because I'm staying at someone else's house, I'm not going to be up, roaming around the house and all of that. So I was sleeping in later. I also ended up going to bed later because she's like a night owl. And so with me staying to work later, by the time I got to the house, it was like 45 minutes before it's time for me to go to bed, and I still hadn't ate dinner. So like last week, while I normally do intermittent fasting and typically eat between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., I was eating earlier in the morning because we were actually starting trial 9:30, so I would be able to get to work, relax for a minute, take the clothes to the basement for the client, eat, still have some time to like relax. He ran a strict lunch schedule, so I actually had a full hour and a half for lunch, which means I had time to both do a walk and eat. Now, because I was leaving work at like 6:30, by the time I got to my friend's house, it was, a little bit before 7, so I was eating later, but then I would also sit and talk to her, and so I was going to bed a little bit later. Like, I was going to bed at like the 9:15 versus being in my bed at like 8:45 and being winding down, like getting off the phone at 9:15. I was starting that process at 9:15, so I was sleeping in a little later, so me waking up a little later was okay. And this is what I mean by structure begets flexibility. Because I have this structure, I have this routine, but sometimes you have to be flexible with it. And it didn't collapse. Like me going to bed a little bit later, but then I also was waking up a little bit later, but I still was able to get up, do most of my morning routine. I kind of compressed it a little bit. Like I wasn't doing the whole office thing. Like I would just leave her house earlier and I would get to work about 7:30. And so I would give myself 30 to 45 minutes to work on my business before I switched into work mode. That's flexibility. That's a structure that allows you to be flexible based off of what is going on in life, what is going on in the day, what is going on in the week. Where are you creating that for yourself? Why aren't you creating that for yourself? And I get it. You saying you don't know how. Hi, I'm Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach. With the productivity strategy session, we can literally build out your schedule. We can literally build out your schedule so you can understand this is my base framework. This is my typical everyday. And now that I know my typical everyday, here's where I can adjust and pivot as I need to be flexible because life is lifing. I have to make adjustments. I'm traveling. I'm this. I'm that. But what could change if you stopped waiting? At the end of Q2, where do you want to be? Because also at the end of Q2, we will be halfway through this year. If you set yearly goals, what do you need to do to make sure that you're on track for those in the next 12 weeks? If you didn't set yearly goals, what is it that you want to do or be, or where do you want to be by halfway through this year? What will success look like for you in business, in life, at work, in relationships, in whatever category, your health, your finances? What will success look like for you at the end of June? When you be like, dang, 2026 is halfway gone, you want to be able to look and say like, it is, and I'm on track. I was paying some bills and stuff earlier because I gotta pay my bills, and so that was part of me coming home to make sure that we coming up to the first. I'm gonna be out of town, and when I come back, I don't need nothing to being late. But I was like checking in on like some of my goals, like, oh, okay, you on track, you on track. And so I want you to understand that structure is what is going to stay no matter what happens in life. And structure is a flexible thing. It's giving you the best case scenario, but then when you have to deal with the worst case scenario, it still allows you to bend, to flex, and to do. And so we looked at what waiting is costing you and why waiting for things to slow down is a trap. We examined how having this shortened and more compressed timeline is actually more beneficial because it helps you to lock in and focus and understand what are you doing week to week. And then from there, you can kind of really even break that down into what do I need to do day to day. And we talked about the execution. What would it look like to actually change? How is course correcting, pivoting, adjusting, not actually failure, but a sign of you being a leader? We've been talking about you being the CEO of your life. It is a sign of leadership. Leadership is being able to adapt and to change to what's being thrown at you, to what's being given to you. How are you doing that? Are you doing that? So I want you to know that as we go into Q2, as we go into the month of April, something's got to change. Something's got to shift. Something's got to change. Something's got to pivot. And it starts with you and your decision to do so. And if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I'm ready for change, or I think I'm ready for change, or even I'm scared of change, or even I don't know what I need, child, tell me. Let's have a conversation. Book a personalized productivity audit. We can talk about how the productivity strategy session, it's a single session. How in this one section we can lock in and get you that game plan to go. If you want to learn about one-on-one coaching, in 6 weeks, how we can walk you halfway through the quarter and make sure that you're truly set up for where it is that you want to be. Just reach out. Click the link, book a call, comment, help. Do what you need to do. I'm here and I'm waiting. Now, actually, I'm not even waiting. Let me not lie to y'all. I'm here and I'm ready. But I'm also doing the work and I'm literally living this process. Because I'm going to finish trial and I'm going to get on the plane. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to be stationary. And I'm going to lock in and I'm going to be promoting this masterclass that I'm doing for y'all at the end of the month of April. But what could change in 12 weeks if you stop waiting? What can change in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, in a week, whatever the case may be? What could change if you start waiting? Think about that. Sit on it, meditate on it, and then if you say, you know what, I'm ready for change, reach out, comment, help, book a call. Let's do this. But it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another Sunday at the Success Starter series. We dove in and we talked about structure. How structure stays. March has been all about structure, and we winding down the month and the quarter with talking about change. Changing for the better in the next month, in the next quarter, as you go forward and hit this halfway point of the year. But it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another week in the Success Started series. Coach Lee is out. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. Until next week, Coach Lee is